Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am showing up perfectly imperfect. My hair is still wet. I don't know what to do with it anymore, but I am here and I kind of want to talk a little bit about my process and my writing process and what I do to edit. So let's get into it. As many writers find, their process kind of evolves and refines over the year as you try things and figure out what works for you and what each project calls for, because each project is different. Each book can take a different approach and could need different things to get it out of you, basically. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm doing right now with my process and how it looks for me. So a little overview. I first start with a summary, an outline. I will sometimes write out cards on, write out little scenes on index cards. Sometimes it looks like just a bullet point list in my notebook. But I usually start with an idea and I summarize, they do this in this scene and they find this, or this big point is revealed, or something like that. And then I get into handwriting. I know handwriting isn't for everybody, but for me, it's easier to let go of that perfectionism of needing something to be perfect if it is handwritten. I can scratch things out. I am able to kind of trick my mind into saying it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to start. I just need to shovel sand into the sandbox so that I can build a sandcastle later, kind of stuff. And it's just this neat little, it just makes it a little easier to let go of it's got to be right the first time. So I like to handwrite my scenes. I do that right here in my bullet journal. This is my planner, and basically I just kind of go, when I write my first drafts, I just do it like this is today, or this is Tuesday, this was yesterday. I have my appointments, my list of to-dos, I write down my sprints, but then I don't future plan. So like I don't have today written down here yet. I don't have next week in here. So that way, as I write my first drafts, they're right there on right after what day I've written. So I can easily look back and say, okay, I've written this much on this day. I wrote this much on that day. And that's just a little nitpicky thing I do. I also find that sometimes on the weekends, I don't keep up with this. Like I don't have time to write because I'm spending time with my family and getting things ready for the week. So I find that I don't always write and whatnot. So after I have a first draft of the scene here in my notebook, I then take time to transcribe that into the computer. And that can be done. I do that a couple of different ways. Sometimes I type it out. Sometimes I use the voice to text on my phone to just put it into Google Docs. And then once it's in Google Docs, I can start editing. And this is where I kind of get into my little trick that I use for editing. I call this layering. I'm not going to claim that I came up with it because I'm pretty sure people have done this all over. I'm pretty sure people have done this a lot of different ways. It's not uncommonly heard of. I think everybody kind of does this just in different ways. So, this is where, when I layer, this is where I go through my scene. First, I work by chapters or scenes. So, once I have handwritten a scene or a couple of scenes, I transcribe them, and then I go back and edit, and then I will work on the next batch of scenes. I will go through and first do a cleanup, because when I'm transcribing, unless I'm typing it, it doesn't come out cleanly. So voice to text, a lot of times I have trouble with quotation marks, so I have to go in and put all the quotation marks in there. Voice to text also likes to throw in a lot of extra spaces sometimes. So a lot of times that first pass in my layering process is just a cleanup of getting the scene to kind of look right with formatting for myself and visually for me, so that I can actually stomach looking at it. Then the real process kind of begins, and just like peeling back the layers of an onion, I go through bit by bit of that scene, and I layer in more details, because I tend to, especially when I'm handwriting, I will underwrite. So basically I just get down the bare bones of the scene on paper, so that way I know what's happening. I can kind of get the scene out of my head, but it still needs more to bring it to life for a reader, someone who's not me. So I then will take a pass, and I do, on different passes, on each pass, I'm looking for something different, or looking to add different details or refine different things to make it more clear for the reader what's going on. So what this looks like is, maybe on a first pass, maybe on one pass, I am looking at just the character actions and motions, and making sure it's clear that, you know, character A is standing maybe by the door. He closes the door, great. But if in the next few sentences or the next paragraph, he's over by the desk, well, how did he get there, you know? So I'm looking at just one thing at a time. So after looking at character actions, maybe I'll go through and look at just inner dialogue from my main character or my main point of view. So then I am going through and making sure that it's not, that's not missing, and adding in more details and reactions from the main point of view. Then I'll go look at emotions and make sure I'm properly conveying emotions, and using like the emotion thesaurus to then not only show other characters' emotions, like how they look on their face or how their bodies are moving or reacting. I'm looking at my main point of view's internal reactions to their emotions and that feeling and those feelings in that scene. And then another layer I will look at is setting and description of the setting in the room, making sure I'm not stuck in a white room syndrome for this scene. And so making sure, you know, the lighting, not just, you know, physical things around them, but if they're outside, what's the weather like? Is it raining? Is it windy? Is it cold? Is it hot? You know, is textures of the furniture or the cloth or something, you know, adding in those little details and not trying to overdo it, but making sure I'm touching it, each layer, to build a proper scene around these characters in this story, and making sure I'm really portraying every aspect, making sure I'm portraying every aspect of the story to really bring it to life. Another thing, so there's a bunch of different layers like that. Another one, making sure if I'm working in a fantasy setting or something that's not necessarily contemporary, like an urban fantasy or something like that, where there's another culture, or like I work a lot with vampires. The vampires have their own culture and world, so I want to make sure I'm world building and showing that culture and how it differs from what someone might think of outside of our culture, and make sure I am portraying that as well. So yeah, I know I probably went through that really quickly, but that's kind of what I do with layers. And it's just like each time I go make it pass through the scene, I'm looking for something different. And I feel like one of the downsides to this is that it does take me a longer time to go through and edit these sections, especially when I feel like I need to go through most of these layers before I can move on to writing the next scene. But for me, I feel like it creates a better experience for the reader. So that time is worth it and well spent, in my opinion. So after I do all the layering, I then move on. I go through and like tweak it. I'll read it. When I get to the point where I'm reading it a couple of times and I'm just like nitpicking over like little word choices or where a few commas are going, that's when I share it with a critique partner or a beta reader and see what their feedback is. And a lot of times they'll come back where it's either mostly clean, or maybe they have a few comments where some things weren't quite as clear, or they feel like there was something missing. Then I can go through again and I make that pass of addressing their comments and whatnot. Then once I have all that done and have completed the story basically, and have gone through all those beta read comments and critique partner comments and edited them, and again I'm getting to that nitpicky stage, that's where I send it off to a professional editor to have a full manuscript edited. Then I go through again with the editor's comments and I edit and tweak and fix that, and then I send it off to ARC readers and publish it. So that's kind of what my process looks right now. I would love to hear from you guys. Like, what's your writing process? I know that looks different for everybody. And for me, writing process and like how people work in their routines and stuff is always fun to read about and learn about, because I always feel like I'm trying to make my process more streamlined and maybe not more streamlined, or you know, I'm always curious to try new things to see if it would work for me or not. So please definitely leave a comment. Let me know how your writing process is and what you do. I also wanted to let you guys know that you probably have seen on my channel that I do live writing sprints on Wednesday nights. So Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, I go live here on YouTube and in the Facebook group Heart Breathing's Writing Community, and I run sprints for them. And these are just fun. We get together on here live and do a few writing sprints where we mute for 25 minutes and then we come back and chat and see what we got done. And then we mute for another 25 minutes and write and come back again. It goes back and forth for 2 hours. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy hanging out with my evening sprinters. So if you're interested, please join us Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Otherwise, I will let you guys go, and I will talk to you later. Peace, love, and happy writing. Bye.